actually just a time and a place. And I've wondered why that is. My theory is that my mother and father divorced when I was about 2, and I was born in Chicago, and I moved with my mother and stepfather to San Francisco when I was 7. And I vividly remember the first morning that I woke up there. We were staying in a hotel, looking out the window and just feeling viscerally how different that place was from the textures of brick and rust and stone and just a kind of old industrial feel that I was used to in Chicago. I think maybe at 7 you don't think about how different places are from each other. But when I looked out and saw a palm tree and some pastel colors, I think it opened up a sense in me of how a place is a portal into a world and a story, and maybe that's why I rely on it so much. In the case of Boom Squad, the place and the time were a hotel in New York around 2006 where I was having dinner with my mother. And I went into the bathroom, and while I was washing my hands, I looked down and saw a handbag with a wallet exposed in it. And I immediately felt a lot of anxiety on behalf of the wallet owner because I have been robbed so many times and ways that it is downright embarrassing. The motorcyclist, the guy on foot, the sneaky pickpocket. But there was one particular case of theft that has really stayed with me, and it occurred about 17 years ago or so. My wallet was stolen. I was very upset because I had to fly later in the day. I was really discombobulated, and in the middle of my fretting, the telephone rang, and it was someone calling from Citibank from the fraud recovery program. She was a lovely woman. She was sympathetic. I wept on the phone with her. We talked about my credit cards and just how to sort of get everything back in order. And then it came time to pick a new PIN number for my new cash card, and somehow in the course of that I also mentioned my old PIN number, at which point the conversation ended very quickly because I was actually talking to the thief. And she rushed to the nearest cash machine and overdrew my checking account, which I didn't even know you could do. So if you can imagine, if I was flipping out before that conversation, what kind of shape I was in after. I just couldn't get over it. I mean, I got the money back. There was no long-term damage done, but I couldn't get over the fact that I had spent 15 minutes talking to this woman and actually weeping. And I kept thinking, what was it like from her side? Did she actually feel sympathy, or was she just thinking, ha-ha, I've got this one? The thought lingered. So I think that when I saw that wallet in the bathroom all those years later, and I thought, someone is going to take that wallet, no question. And then I thought, well, the only person here is actually me. And that led into a kind of belief that I think I really live for, into the other side of the equation. Because I think the single worst piece of writing advice I've ever gotten is write what you know. That is exactly what I do not like to do, what I actually can't seem to do. And whereas in the chapter I just started reading to you, we know all about Sasha's inner life. In the Benny chapter, she's this rather opaque secondary character, and all of that seemed kind of fun. So when I finished that chapter, or story as I thought of it, I found myself kind of intrigued by a quick mention of Benny Salazar's ex-wife, Stephanie, who's a doubles player. I thought, okay, one more and that is it. Then I go back to what I'm supposed to be doing and attack the hundreds of pages of historical research I've spent a lot of time on over the last few years. So as I was working on the third chapter that I wrote about Stephanie, I realized I was hooked. I was not going to be writing this other book for a while. So then it was time to sit back and ask the question, what am I doing? What seems fun about it? Why is it worth continuing? And I realized a few things. One was that the story was happening in pieces that were very different from each other and about different people, yet interrelated. And whereas in a more conventional novel, the question, the exploration, the thing that the reader is wondering is often what will happen, it seemed like this book was built more around little shocks of time passing. That feeling we have when we go back to a place we haven't been to in a long time or see a person we haven't seen in a long time, that kind of sense memory of an earlier time, and also the voyeuristic pleasure of just plunging into other people's lives. I mean, I've always been a person who would walk down the street, glancing into people's windows and thinking, I wish I could just go in there, you know, or seeing someone on the street and thinking, I wish I could just follow them home and see what their house is like. So this book is built around that kind of curiosity. Music plays a huge part in it for many reasons, but I think that the chief one is that music really makes time fall away like nothing else. And now that we all walk around with our own soundtracks, I think we're more aware of that than ever. I mean, I go running to the Brooklyn Bridge, and I'm running through the 70s. I'm running through the 80s. I feel like I'm sort of bathed in an awareness of my own past more than I would be if I didn't have that soundtrack. And finally, a book about time, really it has to sort of be about technology. I mean, I just turned 49, and when I was a kid, you know, you made a telephone call, and hopefully someone answered. And if they didn't answer, there was a busy signal, or the phone rang and rang and rang. And to go from that to the kind of hyper-connectedness that we live with now is just shocking. When I told my sons about that for the first time, about the telephone and how it would just ring, my younger son stared at me and he said, Mom, was there electricity? So that's a measure of how ancient that idea seemed. It was as if I had told him we rode around on horses.